Welcome to BackPackTrack, the solo travel podcast for people who think one backpack is a lifestyle. It's funny, actually, but nowadays, when I scroll through my Instagram, traveling is the topic in my feed. And maybe it's just because of my preferences, and I mean, we all know the algorithm of Instagram is kind of like scary, actually. But yeah, obviously my feed is full of traveling. But even though I have more and more the feeling that, yeah, solo traveling is becoming more and more popular these days. And let's be honest, it's fucking great, and that's why I do it so much. But the truth is, it can be quite expensive if you don't know how to do it right. So for me, I'd say solo traveling is not an aesthetic. And it's not like Eat, Pray, Love. Maybe you've seen the movie. Nah, it's more like eating instant noodles. Pray that your credit card is still working. And yeah, left sleeping next to strangers in a big dorm. Yay! So yeah, that's solo traveling for me, actually. And on the other side, a lot of people always ask me like, hey, how can you afford traveling so much? And then they jump to the conclusion that I'm rich. I don't know where this is coming from. Or that my parents support me and pay for everything. But no, none of that is true. Not at all. To be honest, the truth is, I just worked my ass off for years. And with that, I really mean for years. So I started working like part-time jobs and yeah, also normal jobs since the age of 16. So yeah, you save up quite a bit. And another reason why I can afford traveling so much is basically that I budget travel as much as possible. So instead of going to fancy restaurants, yeah, street food it is for me most of the time. And in general, I'm not rich. I treat myself, of course, but I'm not really committed to pay for anything unnecessary. I mean, there are exceptions. For example, this big Jolteon you can see in the background. Like, it was my dream to have a life-size Pokemon plush toy, so yeah, guilty. I don't follow my own rule like 100%, but let's say 80% of the time, I just budget travel. And that, as I said, I don't restrict myself super hard. So I also met some people who are literally, they never treat themselves to sometimes having an own private room or going for another scoop of ice cream, something like this. They're really like super committed, or instead of taking a bus or a taxi, they rather walk for 2 hours. I met these kind of people, and I have my limits, not gonna lie. So yeah, maybe I can also make a separate episode about budget tips in Japan, because right now, as you may know, I stay here in Japan. And yeah, Japan is a different thing because it's kind of expensive, but yeah, another topic, another time. So, where would I start with giving you the first budget travel tip? To be honest, it's definitely not about booking flights, because maybe if you listen to my previous episodes, then you notice I'm not good at booking the right flight, because I mix up the dates and then I feel super happy about getting a super cheap flight until I realize, oh, wrong date. And then I have to rebook it, have to pay a fee for changing it. So in general, don't listen to me, because if you do, you pay more than you should. But yeah. I'd say, or I would start with the most basic budget travel tip, and it's probably the most obvious one, but it's accommodation. I'm a person, I don't stay in fancy hotels or apartments. No. For me, it's always hostel action. And this is also a thing where I would distinguish between traveling and being on vacation, because most of us, when they're just on vacation, they want to have like a nice room, they want to chill there, they're to relax. And for me, this is like being on vacation. But if you actually want to travel, you don't really need a king size bed or room service or fresh towels every day, because for me, traveling is more about experience the city, experience the surroundings, and not staying, in a hotel or in the next area to it. So, I don't know. But honestly, if you prefer hotels, that's totally fine. It's just my thing. I like going to cheap hostels because usually it's really cheap. So, anyways, I prefer hostels. And a lot of people are also saying, yeah, hostels, but it's so annoying. They're only party people, and it's not quiet, and everyone is just drinking. And yeah, that's kind of true, but not completely true. So it's mixed. Because there are a lot of hostels where you have just different vibes. So my recommendation for this is read the reviews. Just read them, and then you get like a little bit of an insight of how the hostel life is. So I've been to hostel where I literally had the party vibe, where at 2 a.m. the party was still going on and I was in the bed and felt like, yeah, I would like to sleep, but I cannot, it's too loud. And on the other side, I also had like super chill hostels where everyone is kind of doing their thing and you sit like around a campfire or just on a table and playing some card games, and it's super chill and nothing like party related. And yeah, in this case, just give it a shot. Go for the more quiet hostel if you prefer that, and then just have a look on how it feels like, because your wallet will thank you, definitely. And the good thing about being in a hostel as well, you can connect with people. Because if you travel alone for a long time and you only stay in single rooms or hotels, I think you will get lonely. And I cannot really talk about this because I always go to hostels. Sometimes I treat myself to a private room, but that's usually after I spend 3 weeks in a row in dorm rooms with 8 other people and just want one time in a while just some privacy. Yes. And of course, on the other side, hostels are not the most comfortable places, I'm honest, but I slept on worse things, like literally on a mattress on the floor. So hostels can be nice too. And I think my high score was sharing a room with 19 other people, and surprisingly it was okay. So I just plugged in my AirPods, like Aura Packs, better said, and then I didn't hear anything. And I felt like I would go there again because the hostel owner was really nice. The facilities were clean, so I felt like, why not? And I think maybe it was $10 a night, so yeah, good deal. And as I said again, when you're traveling for long term, you are rarely in your room, I'd say. So that's why I think the best way to save money is with not going into hotels. But it's obvious, kind of. And I'd say in general, per average, I'd spend $10 a night in Southeast Asia. And here I want to emphasize it's just the average. Because Malaysia was a little bit more expensive, whereas like Vietnam was super cheap. And with super cheap, I mean super cheap. And obviously, you always can make better deals or worse deals depending on the time and the place you stay. But for example, if you go off season, the best tip I can give you here is don't book with Booking.com or Agoda or whatever, because they all get a permission. No, go to the hostel itself and ask at the reception if they have a free room, and usually you get it for significantly cheaper than if you book it on a website. I mean, of course, it can happen that they're saying like, oops, sorry, we're full, but usually there will be a way that they have like a spare bed, or you go to the hostel next door. But if you have the time and you don't feel nervous, if you don't have like an accommodation booked, go for it. Go for the reception. So anyways, I would say with the accommodation, you can save up the most money. And especially if you don't mind sharing a room with other people, if you like to connect, and if you're not afraid of, maybe not having a bed during the night, and you just go from reception to reception, you will make very good deals. And so another thing, which is also super obvious, and I kind of mentioned it already, is food. To be honest, judge me here fully, but I'm not really a person who values food so much. Because I'm a vegetarian, but usually I'm vegan, and I try to eat as vegan friendly as possible. But while traveling, especially Southeast Asia, it's a little bit tricky because most dishes have either milk or egg inside. So I'm just fine with being vegetarian. And since a lot of restaurants as well offer a lot of meat or fish dishes, I'm more like a person, you know what, I just go to the next supermarket and get something there, or go to street food markets. And my all-time favorite is literally fruits, especially Southeast Asia. The mango, so juicy, so really good. And here I can say, for example, right now I'm in Japan, and Japan is something. So being vegan here is kind of impossible unless you're in Tokyo and find the dedicated restaurants, which are extremely or significantly more expensive than the normal restaurants. But also being vegetarian is kind of hard. So usually if I go out with friends, I end up eating just plain rice with some pickle, vegetables, and that's it. So that's why I'm saying I can save a lot of money with food, because I don't care really. And I feel like also if I only get like really basic food like a salad or rice or whatever, I can also just cook it myself. And a lot of hostels, if you're traveling around, have kitchens where you can prepare your own food. I haven't found many kitchens in Southeast Asia, to be honest. So Malaysia, not really, same as for Vietnam. But there are so many street foods which are also like super delicious and close, and again, a lot of fruit. So here I save up a lot. I also have to say, in Sri Lanka, for example, it's a vegetarian-friendly restaurant, a vegetarian-friendly country, but it was too oily, too salty. I could not handle the food. So usually my dinner was literally cookies from the supermarket or instant noodles. I know, not really healthy. It's better said far away from being healthy, but who cares? Who cares? But yeah, I think the tip, my budget travel tip number 1 by far is something which combines the first 2 points I mentioned. It's the magic of volunteering. So, for me, volunteering is the ultimate travel cheat code. Why? Because free accommodation, free food, real connection, and you only have to work for a little bit. So, usually you find volunteering opportunities on different apps or websites. I will do another episode for this as well. And then you decide to go somewhere, and usually the people want you to work for 4 to 8 hours. It really depends on the job, better said, yes. And you get free accommodation, which is great, and free food. And in New Zealand, healthy food was very, very expensive. If I thought about it, a broccoli for $6, no thanks. But that's why I went to a lot of farms. In total, I went to four, and they always grew their own vegetables. So the food they prepared, so good, really healthy, really delicious. So yeah, and most of them just wanted me to work for 4 hours a day, and the work included gardening or taking care of the animals, something like this. So it's actually fun. So I had a lot of fun while working. I didn't feel like working. And after that, you always had your free time, so you can still enjoy. And the best thing I'd say about volunteering is as well that you really get close to the culture, because you stay within a family or like some people or a community in general, and they share their values, they tell their stories, they bring you to places where usually no tourist or foreigner or traveler, whatever, comes to, and you just learn a lot. And the connections you have, they were like really close. It's really, really nice. In total, I did a lot of volunteering. So if you want to know anything else about my experiences from volunteering, let me know in the comment section. And spoiler alert, not everything was great. There was one volunteering experience where I felt like I give up, I want to go home. So not everything was super good and glossy and awesome, no. But yeah, if you want to know, let me know. And I think the last travel tip I can give you for saving up money as much as possible is actually kind of obvious, but also a little bit hidden. And I'm talking about hidden fees, for example, with your credit card. I have to admit, I have the issues for quite a while now that my credit card has a transaction and an exchange rate fee. Obviously, I hate it. And it would be also easy to avoid, but yeah, honestly, I was always a little bit too lazy to deal with that while being in another country, because doing it online with German banks is apparently not that easy. So yeah, if I ever go back to Germany, I have to do that. But so for you, before you go on travels, check your transaction fee, because it can really add up if you have to pay everything with card, and there are some countries where you literally need to use the card because they don't have that much cash. A good example for this is New Zealand. And yeah, then you would pay the transaction fee every time, and then it adds up, even though if it's just a few cents or pennies. Yeah. I mean, if you're lucky, like me right now, in Japan, you can use a lot of cash. So I always withdrew money, and then I take a big amount, and then I pay everything with cash, and I only had one time the transaction fee and only one time the exchange rate fee. But yeah, easy avoidable, but I am lazy. But yeah, these are, I think, my favorite tips. And I mean, of course, there are a lot of more, like, budget travel tips, like take the other bus and do hitchhiking and all this stuff. But I think these were the most obvious one and common ones. And if you want to know more, I can also do another part. But on the other side, budget traveling is great, and it can save up a lot of money, but I always remind myself as well, treat yourself. Just treat yourself. It's sometimes about having a good time, and on the other side, you also don't want to suffer all the time when you're saying, sorry guys, I will not come with you and hang out or go to the restaurant because I want to save money. No, that's not the point. It's more you choose what's actually matter to you. So, for example, you just don't need to drink a coffee every day, unless you're coffee addicted. In my case, I try to drink matcha only a few times a week because, yeah, I want to enjoy it. So if I treat myself, I really enjoy the moment of drinking matcha, but you get the idea, right? And for me, I can just say my goal is not to travel as cheap as possible. It's more like I hope to travel as long as possible. And that means working abroad, earning a little bit of money with side jobs, doing volunteering, and yeah, still stay in hostels. So, anyways, thanks for listening, and if you have any more ideas, or if you want to have another part with more detailed tips, let me know in the comments below, and see you next week!